All right, gang, we're back here again, and it's well, let's see, 24, less than 36 hours before the Oscar nominations are out, and before before we all figure out exactly how good or how bad a time we're doing here. Now, uh, this is it. This is the final showdown, the last chance to get out there and say, here's what I think the official nominations are going to be for the 2020 Oscars. This is the 92nd Academy Awards, so lots of years, lots of stuff to look at. Actually, speaking of which, I'm going to pull up one category here really quick because I might need some help because there was one major change I did here going up into the final stretch. There's a couple smaller category changes and stuff too that we'll get to as well, but yeah, we'll get into that as we go. Yeah, so it's really down here to the wire. Here we got final nominations coming, and what I'll do here is I'll go through the categories one by one. We'll just kind of talk about the five I have, and then I kind of go into it a little bit for what else is projected to get in there. So yeah, should be, some of these categories will be longer than others. Some of them there's a lot more to talk about, like especially when we get a couple of the top categories are very, very competitive right now. So some of those we might spend a little bit more time on. Some of them we'll just say, okay, here's the five. Maybe these two or these three have a shot, and then we'll move on. So yeah, we'll kind of go as needed here for some of these categories. Okay, so we're going to start here with the short categories and work our way up. Live action short is first here with A Sister, Brotherhood, Little Hands, The Neighbor's Window, and Refugee. Pretty much the five consensus picks here. Miller and Son is one. I was thinking about, because these short categories, especially at this stage, there's almost always something that sneaks up that is, kind of lower ranked on some of the sites, and it's, and I don't know, but I kind of looked at it and I'm like, I didn't know which one to go with here to kind of go for the episode. So Miller and Son is probably the one most people are talking about. Saria and Sometimes I Think About Dying are a couple of theirs. Now that one, sometimes, films like that or titles like that sometimes jump out at the voters. So something like Sometimes I Think About Dying, might be something that they go to, or it might be something they just totally avoid. So, yep, those are pretty much the five consensus picks there. For documentary short, I'm sticking with the five I had last time. After Maria, Fire in Paradise, Learning to Skate in a War Zone, St. Louis Superman, and Stay Close. Once again, Run Cha Cha is one a lot of people are going for here. I've actually heard Stay Close might be one that misses out. I don't know why, but some people pick that one out in particular. Life Overtakes Me and In the Absence are a couple other ones that we mentioned last time, and yeah, that's kind of the gist of this category. Yeah. For the animated short category, I did make a change here. I've got Dekra, also known as Daughter, Hair Love, Kit Bowl, The Physics of Sorrow, and Sister I did put in there. So Mind My Mind I took out. Otherwise, Horpiste and Uncle Thomas, Accounting for the Days, are still a couple shorts that people are talking about here. But otherwise it seems pretty cut and dry with the five we have. Again, just kind of from a couple sites. Gold Derby especially has those five picked out, and yeah, that's kind of the gist there. Visual effects. This category I've kept the same. It's still Alita Battle Angel, Avengers Endgame, The Lion King, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and The Irishman in there. The Visual Effects Guild for effects-heavy films, 4 of the 5 were on here. Irishman was in the supporting category for effects. So, and as long as Alita made it there, I was probably going to stick around with that one. And I did see 1917 today, and it's not necessarily like an effects-heavy film, so even though I think the Academy's really going to dig that movie, I don't have that one getting a nomination here. I also have it missing for like film editing. I still have that one out and stuff, so yeah, we'll see there. Otherwise, like Gemini Man made the list there, I believe, for that 5th nominee for effects-heavy film, so that's probably one. It is from Ang Lee, so of course they like his movies in the past, but it's like it was such a box office, failure in some respects, and then also critically was not well received. So yeah, and then if something like Cats, I was looking at it earlier, that didn't make the effects list as well. So yeah, I feel like that one's done in that category. Let's see here for sound editing. I did make a change here. I have Ad Astra out. I have 1917 in Avengers Endgame, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And I think going into the stretch here, Joker is one I think a few people have picked now, and it did well across the sound guilds and stuff. Really, it did well across the board. Joker did at the guilds, except for directors. Strangely enough, we'll see what I did with that one here later on. But yeah, otherwise the other four are pretty much locked in. So we could see, again, a lot of people are thinking Rocket Man here just because of Bohemian Rhapsody last year. I don't think so. That was the one time that happened. I mean, if it keeps going, like if Rocket Man gets in on Monday and then we consistently see it keep going, then okay, we'll know it's kind of changed their mind there. Otherwise, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was very close to picking this one here, actually, in favor of Ad Astra. At first, I think I put that one in for one day, and then I went back and took Joker instead. Because we have seen Tarantino get in here. I believe, from what I remember, I know Django made the sound editing category 7 years ago, but I thought Inglourious Basterds had one of the sound category nominations too. I might be wrong about that, but so that's definitely one I was very, very close to picking, and then went with Joker instead. And then The Irishman is also one that we could see pop up here. For sound mixing, I have 4 of the 5 here. I'm changed this one up a little bit too. 1917, Avengers Endgame, Ford v Ferrari, Rocket Man, and Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. Again, after we saw BAFTA go over pretty big for Rocket Man, and it's across the guilds, it's been doing pretty good. Especially with Taron Egerton now. Yeah, that's. I think Rocket Man will kind of have a bit of a rebound here. So yeah, I picked that one. Again, we could see Joker in this category instead of sound editing. That's possible. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, also possible here. The Irishman, I also wouldn't put it past him. This is one category they go for it too. But it's a little bit of mystery left in this category here. Okay, so then next up is the makeup and hairstyling category. I have Bombshell, Dolomite Is My Name, Joker, Judy, and Rocket Man in here. I believe these are the same 5 I had previously. And I think the only other 2 I'm looking at here is, 3 actually. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, maybe. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the film, but it's not really until the ending that you get some of that makeup and stuff, and it's like even then it might be, a little too late into the film for some people. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917 are really the only other ones I'm looking at here. Little Women and Downton Abbey are also on the short list, but there's like no makeup in those movies from what I've seen. I haven't seen Downton Abbey, but Little Women I did see today, and there's no makeup in that. Great movie, but there's no makeup in there. Let's see, for production design, I have 1917, Jojo Rabbit, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and The Irishman. I believe these are the same 5 I had last time. I've kind of looked again over some of the odds makers and stuff. I think the same 5. Gold Derby has The Moment. Chris Tapley might have put in for Anywhere. He might have put Parasite in there instead of JoJo, or instead of not 1917. No, instead of, who did he pick? Oh, I won't look it up. But I think he might have put in somebody different there. Let's see. Yeah, so Parasite. Again, we don't traditionally see the production design categories go too modern. La La Land probably being the major exception there, and even then there were certainly moments of it that were emulating the musicals of ages past, so you could even argue that one's a little more fantasy sometimes than it is contemporary there. Joker has been doing pretty well here in this category, with the Guild nomination and with Critics' Choice, and I believe it was also at BAFTA too, so Joker is one that's definitely on the rise here. And then Ford v Ferrari is one I've got an eye out here for too. Again, that would be like, if Ford v Ferrari would really have to overperform Monday to get this one too. Like, I'm thinking, I have it in for 4. We mentioned 2 of them already, but I have it in for 2 more after this. It would have to get like actor, maybe not screenplay, but like this one, so it would have to get that like 5 or 6 range, I think, to get this one. I don't know. I think it's going to do well with the Academy, but I just don't think it's quite here, but there's an off chance that it gets in. Let's see, the costume design category, I believe I've got the same 5 here. No, I did change, one change here. Jojo Rabbit, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Rocket Man, and The Irishman I did put back in. Downton Abbey, that didn't go over well with BAFTA. It didn't really, I don't think it got a single nomination there from my recollection. So if they're not going for it, then I took that one out, and I put in The Irishman in favor of it. And then I thought about it again. I'm like, you know what? The costumes in JoJo, I'm like, yeah, I'm going with that over Dolomite. But Dolomite feels like that's probably the next most likely in this category. Then Downton Abbey, I would still say, yeah, it's got something of a choice to, of a chance here too. Judy, and then maybe Joker. Again, I'm not 100% on that either, but you know, I see it's kind of higher up on some people's lists there for costumes. Let's see, going into the music categories, original song, no changes here. Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, Stand Up from Harriet, Spirit from Lion King, I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man, and Glasgow, No Place Like Home from Wild Rose. Yeah, I'm just not really, other than the Diane Warren song from Breakthrough, I'm Standing With You. I mean, there's really not much else here I'm looking at. A Class of Soju, you know, just because it has Parasite on it. I don't know if necessarily that branch is going to go for it. Otherwise, yeah, the documentary we keep talking about, High Above the Water from Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am, they do sometimes go for those documentaries in this category. So that's one, definitely keep an eye out for that one to spoil on Monday. For score, I've got 1917, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, and Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, it's pretty much those five, I think. Us, Jojo Rabbit, Ford v Ferrari all made the cut, but I guess those are the three most likely in my eyes, but I don't know. I just don't sense too much otherwise here. Yeah, this might be an easy category to go 5 for 5 on, unless they miss Williams and Newman for some of the other ones, and that's Randy Newman for Marriage Story. But I think it's a safe bet for those. Let's see, for film editing, this one's a little bit riskier. I've got Ford v Ferrari, Jojo Rabbit, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, and The Irishman in here. I don't really, you know, obviously the one to go is probably Jojo Rabbit, but it's like, again, I'm not falling for the 1917 trap the way I fell for the Roma trap last year in this category. I'm just not going to do it. Joker, I think, is the next most likely then, after I've got JoJo kind of in that fifth slot, like for most likely to least likely. So, yeah, I would say JoJo is definitely the one to go here, but Joker is right on its heels. Marriage Story is also possible here if it really overperforms. Which, yeah, I think that one's actually pegged for 6 nominations. I had it for more earlier, but yeah, not anymore. Let's see here. Otherwise, yeah, that kind of feels like those 8 are kind of the ones that it's coming down to here in this category. Let's see, for cinematography, the 5 I have are 1917, Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, and The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse did get like an honorary kind of like Spotlight Award nomination at the Cinematographers Guild. Otherwise, the other 4 made it in, with Ford v Ferrari being the outside pick there at Cinematographers Guild, I should say. Which that definitely has a shot here. Parasite, I would definitely, you know, again, we'll see how well loved it's across the whole board. Parasite is, but that's one to watch out for here. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, we mentioned that one last time. Maybe if they want to go another foreign language film here in this category over Parasite, or even if they want to put Parasite and that one in, could be. They did go 3 foreign language films last year in this category, with Roma, Cold War, and the German one, whichever one it was. So yeah, but that's the thing. I'm just not sure, because like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the other one that actually that missed the Cinematographers Guild. But it's, you know, it's Robbie Richardson. You know, he's always in at the Oscars for his works. His Tarantino works have always been nominated, I think, as far back as they've collaborated, to my recollection there. Oh, yeah, 1917 ain't missing here. The Irishman is probably not missing. The Lighthouse is black and white. They like black and white films in this category. Again, they went with 2 last year. So, yeah, I think those are the safe bets there. So about 8 or 9 contenders in that category. So that one, a little bit more wiggle room on that one, but I think the 5 I've got are the 5 I would probably normally pick in this category. For international film, I've got Atlantics, Honeyland, Les Miserables, Pain and Glory, and Parasite. And these feel like the consensus choices here, again, for the most part. Atlantics did also got a nomination at DGA for First Time Director, so that one is on the radar for sure. Honeyland made the short list for documentary film as well, so those are definitely ones they've got an eye on here. Otherwise, I think Beanpole, Corpus Christi, Those Who Remained are about the only other three people are talking about here, and they're all kind of out to lunch as far as their likelihood of nominations and so on and so forth. It just feels like, especially Les Mis, Pain and Glory, and Parasite are like the three. I mean, if any of those miss, that's a big time snub there in that category. But once again, I like the five I've got there. For documentary feature, I have American Factory, Apollo 11 for Sama, Honeyland, and One Child Nation. Now, One Child Nation got in at DGA over Apollo 11. Kind of surprising there, which again shows, I think, the overall strength of that one. We did see, of course, the front runner in this category last year miss out with Won't You Be My Neighbor. So something like Apollo 11, American Factory, which are kind of more or less the two duking it out for that front runner position right now. Don't be surprised, if they do, because, it's been known to happen before. The Cave was in at DGA for the documentaries there, so, Biggest Little Farm, is an appealing title. Maiden has a little bit of support behind it. The Great Hack was a nominee at BAFTA. There's a little wiggle room here, but again, not enough to go over the five that I've got selected right now. Pretty much the same goes for animated feature here. I've got Frozen 2, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. Again, I just don't know where else to go in this category, because it's like Abominable, maybe, but I don't know what that gets in over. I don't think it gets in over Train Your Dragon, for direct competition with DreamWorks Animation there. Klaus did get the nomination at BAFTA, but again, it's like that's about the only place it's shown up this year. Except maybe the PGAs for animated film. I don't think so, actually, I don't remember that one getting in, so. Weathering with You was also one we were looking at early, but it feels like that one has kind of dropped off the map there a little bit. All right, now we'll get into the major 8 categories, starting with adapted screenplay. I've got Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, The Irishman, and the Two Popes. So I did pull out A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And that was a tough call, but I just look at the love for Joker across the field, and it's like, I was hedging my bets earlier. I think I'd had it at 4 or 5 previously, and I've put it into a couple more. So I think it's leaning more toward the higher end, especially after how well it did at BAFTA. There's just, And then also, there's another reason for that, and of course they're voted on by the different branches, but there's something else with Joker. I might get to it later on when we get to another category. I'm kind of giving something away now. But, and really it's these 6 that it comes down to. And it's like, The Two Popes is such a, again, having not seen it yet, but Anthony McCartan, they love him. And it's, feels like such a screenplay movie from what I've heard, word of mouth and stuff. So it's like, I don't see that one missing. Irishman is a lock. Little Women's a lock. Jojo Rabbit is a lock. So it's like, it's that 5th slot. Is it Joker or is it Beautiful Day? And I think Joker gets it. Original screenplay change here. Knives Out, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, and The Farewell. Bombshell was just losing traction in this race here. So even though it did well at SAG and a couple other places, I don't see it going all the way for screenplay here. So I'm going with something more like Knives Out, which is a big box office hit now after the Christmas holiday, especially here in the States, really picked up. Worldwide, over 300 million now, last I checked here. I think it was like 310 or something million. It's doing way better internationally than I thought it would. We did see Booksmart, just landed BAFTA and WGA nominations. Knives Out did the same. So it was really down to those two. The Farewell, again, has been kind of struggling in this category, but I just feel like that's one where it's like, it was liked early. Similar to the one last year. What was it? I can't even think of the actor's name. Ethan Hawke, that one. It's going to come to me halfway through the video, but the one that got in last year for screenplay, I picked it to win at the end just because it was an oddball choice. But that one, it was Righteous something. No, okay, it'll come to me. That one was one that was liked early on, got the Critics' Choice win, and was nominated there, and it got a couple other nominations through Critics' Prizes and stuff. So that one feels like the farewell to me. Opened early, very well critically received, has gotten a few bumps and nods here and there through the season. So not as, obviously Ethan Hawke got a lot more stuff last year for Best Actor. First Reformed, there we go, for First Reformed last year. So definitely less than what Awkwafina has gotten so far, but then again, she has a Golden Globe win. Ethan Hawke wasn't even nominated that year at the Globes, so yeah. Let's see here. Otherwise, we do have like a couple other contenders here. 1917 got in at WGA, missed at BAFTA, which I think hurt it. And again, as we've talked about many times here, the war films struggle in these writing categories rather in the last few years. So even though, again, I think it'll do well across most of the categories here, I don't see screenplay going along for the ride. Pain and Glory, we'll talk more about that one later, because there's a chance that one sneaks back into director, I think. But I think if it's going to do that, it's going to get screenplay too, and I just don't sense it right now. And then also Uncut Gems could be that kind of oddball, like a Nightcrawler pick, popular film, from, some younger or, less known talents, in that case. And it is such a weird race. We could see something weird, like Parasite could miss here. I mean, it's gotten in pretty much everywhere for screenplay this year, but I put that one as the least likely. Otherwise, I feel like Marriage Story is really like the only locked, can't miss one in this category. I said that for the SAG Ensemble category, of course, but and that didn't happen. But I don't know. And then, Tarantino, he missed for The Hateful Eight a few years ago. You could argue that was in a competitive category as well, and obviously Hateful Eight was nowhere near where Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is as far as the Best Picture race in comparative years, obviously. But so Tarantino has missed before. As I recall, he was not nominated for Jackie Brown. I could be wrong about that. I know he wasn't nominated for the Kill Bill film, so it's not like every time he has a film out he gets nominated by the writers. But once again, I think the five I've got are probably the ones that get in, obviously with the exception of something like Booksmart, which came on strong at the end here, Pain and Glory, 1917, again, something like that, or even Bombshell, I think maybe has a slight chance still, but again, that one has lost so much steam that it's, I feel like that one's done. All right, one quick second. Let me shut off that heater before we get to the acting category. Just in case it turns back on here. All right. I'm sure that was a great shot. Okay, we'll go on here. Supporting actress up first, and again, I did have a last-minute switch in this category, too. Laura Dern, I've got in for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, Florence Pugh in for Little Women, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. So yeah, that Xiao Zuzhen, I think, one thing that I think really helped her was Awkwafina's nod to her at the Golden Globes. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if that's enough, though, because really, aside from Critics' Choice, she's missed everywhere. Annette Bening and Kathy Bates early on got a nod here and there, but they've both dropped off the map since. And, one thing, nobody really at this point in this category last year was calling Marina de Tavira to get nominated for Roma. So are we looking at another monster upset nomination like that from either, there's two actresses from Parasite that people have mentioned. I believe it's the mom and the maid, the mom of the rich family and the maid. That's Lee Jung-yun and Chow Yu-young, I believe is how you pronounce these words, or these names, I should say. Sorry. Otherwise, Nicole Kidman did get that solo nomination for SAG, also for Bombshell, but again, that was a huge support for Bombshell, and I don't see it repeating that kind of business here at the Oscars. Yeah. And obviously some people think, even though Scarlett really, aside from the Golden Globes, has gotten in both categories across the board this year, except, did she get Critics' Choice for JoJo? I believe she did. There was like 6 or 7 nominees in that category. Let's see, Critics' Choice. Just to double check. I'm pretty sure she did, but... Where's she at? Yeah, she was in... So yeah, only the Globes missed her for the double nod, but even then, JoJo underperformed there, and since then, it's more or less gotten back on track, with obviously the big DGA nomination, well across the guilds otherwise, including the SAG Ensemble nomination. So, I would say look out for that one. Obviously, we'll get into it with the director race again, because Taika is also one I'm looking at there. But anyways, so yeah, I've got these 5, but... Scarlett almost feels her and Florence are kind of duking out for who's the weakest link here, because Margot Robbie seems pretty set for Bombshell. For Bombshell, again, I don't think, even though the weird thing at BAFTA with her getting nominated twice in the same category, also for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I just, that performance versus Bombshell, I think, has no traction behind it. Jennifer Lopez, even though she missed BAFTA again, she's gotten in everywhere else, so I think she gets in here. And then Laura Dern, obviously, I think is clearly safe here. But it's like, it's a weird question too, because what if we're all overthinking Jennifer Lopez now, and it's like the rest of the four get in, and then it is Zhao Shuzhen or one of the actresses from Parasite, or they go Annette Bening, even though they like Annette Bening a lot, and stuff like that, but she didn't get nominated for like 20th Century Women a few years ago and stuff like that. Wasn't there one last year that she was getting bounced around a bit for early on and it didn't get any traction? Oh, I forget, but yeah. That's the other way. I think we've gotten that's a pretty good look at that one. Let's see here. For supporting actor, I have Tom Hanks for Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I'm keeping Song Kang-ho in for Parasite, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci both for The Irishman, and Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, again, these kind of feel like the five here to me, other than Song Kang-ho being, clearly the kind of long shot kind of thing here. But again, as we like to see the acting branch do year after year, they do go with somebody in one acting race or another, sometimes multiple races, who has not gotten in anywhere, suddenly get into the Oscars. Marina de Tavira was the big example last year. I can go back to Jonah Hill, Laura Dern for Wild getting nominated nowhere, and then ending up at the Oscars. Wasn't there somebody else that year? Well, Bradley Cooper missed a lot of places. He might have gotten one nomination at like Critics' Choice or something, but otherwise he was missed. I think he did miss everywhere. Yeah, for American Sniper. So they do happen a lot. And if we're going anywhere this year that has that kind of race, it's like it's either supporting actress or supporting actor. I don't think the lead races we have to worry about that as much. Of course, now I say that, something weird will happen. But yeah, Song Kang-ho, obviously, now the main backing here is that Parasite, getting that SAG Ensemble nomination, doing well at BAFTA, obviously, after we, learned way too late that it qualified, as in when the nominations came out. Critics' Choice doing well, at the Globes doing well, It's like the actors, I think, are also another group that's behind this film, especially when we saw the nomination at Ensemble there for Screen Actors Guild. So I think they want to go somebody in this cast, and I think from the beginning, a lot of people, including myself, once I saw the film, said if you're going to go anybody for an acting nomination, you go with the dad, the driver character, Song Kang-ho. And yeah, I mean, I think thinking about his performance again, he's got a great moment toward the end. That's a great reflection moment. I don't want to spoil the very end, but like the stuff that happens, like his last couple of scenes are very, very much like some of the most talked about scenes of the year. And the other thing too is I just don't know who else to go for this final slot. Otherwise, it's like Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse, even though it's not really popped up too many spots elsewhere across the whole spectrum this year. They do like Dafoe a lot. He would be one of, it's, pretty rare task anymore these days to get an actor nominated 3 years in a row. Bradley Cooper probably being the last one that I can think of. Renee Zellweger did it before. Al Pacino, of course, has done it before. There was another one, but I lost track of who it was. But, yeah. Jennifer Lawrence almost did it. But, yeah. It's like, sometimes that happens. But, again, I just don't know how much traction is behind that film. Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins just celebrated birthday and stuff, but he's not really one to hugely campaign. Also, from what I've heard, he did a couple spots for the two popes, but otherwise he hasn't shown up at the ceremony so far. And I'm starting to think that one's a screenplay and done type movie too. I don't have Jonathan Pryce in for actor. And also from what I've heard, also Song Kang-ho is also, he was back over in South Korea or China, wherever he's from originally, but then he came back to do some heavy campaigning here in the last stretch, so that might also bump him over the edge. Again, only secondhand I've heard that. And again, early on I picked him, and I haven't gone back to him yet, but somebody like Alan Alda for Marriage Story, if that one, again, if the acting branch wants to do the 4 actors out of the 4 categories deal, that's the one to go with there. But again, I'm, nothing across the board this year for him, and You know, I did see somebody the guy who picks on Collider put Alan Alda in, and also Sam Rockwell for Richard Jewell, but that one ain't happening. Sorry, but so yeah, I think there is still some wiggle room in this category. The guy on Collider, I can't remember if it was Adam Chitwood or who it was, but he took out Al Pacino. It's like, I don't think, no, it's like, I know initially early on, I know I get, because early on I didn't pick him. I had just Joe Pesci in. But it's like, especially after seeing the film too, it's like, yeah, he's getting in. It's like, this is his best performance in years. It'd be his first nomination in almost 30 years. It's like, it's going to happen. You know, I could be dead wrong, and, you know, we could see the same thing happen like we did with Tom Hanks here back in the Captain Phillips year, but I just don't. Again, I just don't know who else to pick in that category who's going to get in over Song Kang-ho, or even over anybody else, really, for that matter. The other four, I think, are just locked in. All right, for lead actress, I have Cynthia Erivo in for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. Yeah, again, I don't see any of these five really missing here, except for Cynthia Erivo. Again, we've got four pretty much locked in. Saoirse did miss SAG, but, you know, that was the thing of, you know, they just didn't get to, not Marriage Story, to Little Women in time, kind of the, you know, the late release and stuff. And it's like, Awkwafina, though, missed BAFTA, missed SAG, you know, got into the Globes through a different category. And I believe, did she miss Critics' Choice, or was she in at Critics' Choice? I forget. Again, I thought I remember her missing at Critics' Choice. Yeah, she did. So, again, I think she's a popular actress. She's definitely, you know, bandied about and stuff. But, I don't know. It's like The Farewell has really lost steam. I mean, no PGA nomination at all for that movie either. It just feels like everything's kind of falling apart for that movie right now. So I don't really sense a last minute surge of that one getting in for like supporting actress, picture, screenplay, and let me list those again: picture, actress, supporting actress, screenplay. I don't see it happening. No, I know initially I had those. You know, maybe not Awkwafina, but the other three I had. But yeah, I just don't think so. Then Lupita Nyong'o also missing for us for. Really everywhere, but, you know, Golden Globes, she didn't get in. She got in at SAG, and then got in at Critics' Choice, from what I recall. Then she was not in at BAFTA either, so I think that kind of hurt her last minute. And again, remember, you know, Get Out versus Us, where they are respectively in the races in their separate years. It's like, even though what's his name? Sorry, Chris from the movie. I remember his character's name without the actor's name. Shoot. I can't remember his name now. The lead actor from Get Out, who, yeah, I mean, his name it'll come to me here, but you know, he was nominated across the board. The movie really, especially late in the game, really started to pick up steam after the SAG Ensemble nomination. Daniel Kaluuya, there you go. You know, Daniel got in everywhere, and the film was getting in everywhere. So it's like, again, you know, Us is like, it might land a score nomination. That's really about it. Except here, if there's a weird nomination. So, yeah, talking about, you know, if we get a weird, you know, out-of-nowhere nomination, probably Alfre Woodard is the one I would go with, but again, Clemency just has no steam whatsoever behind it. And it is also from Neon, as we mentioned through the season here. Yeah, Neon has really been focused on Parasite. Okay, for actor in a leading role, the five I landed on are Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Taron Egerton for Rocketman, and Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Yeah, I went with Taron here. It's just, there's just no denying he's got in everywhere he possibly could, except Critics' Choice, and even then that was the first one, and since then he hasn't missed a beat, including BAFTA, which I was skeptical of him getting in. Antonio Banderas did miss BAFTA and SAG, but as we've seen at SAG, you know, really they've struggled with getting those foreign acting nominations in. Missing at BAFTA too, but then again, Pain and Glory I also had way overperforming at BAFTA. It just didn't do that. It just got foreign language, and that was it. But otherwise, Antonio has gotten in everywhere else, and he's, you know, also a very popular actor. I think he still gets in here. Over the likes of De Niro in The Irishman, over Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes, over Christian Bale, Ford v. Ferrari, and over Eddie Murphy, Dolomite Is My Name. I think, yeah, that's probably the order I would put him in, from most likely to least likely. De Niro, again, you know, could be, again, especially The Irishman, I have lined up for 10 nominations. If it really goes overboard and it gets like 12, if it gets a sound category and De Niro in for actor, you know, kind of, I think that was the number The Revenant hit. I guess that's kind of comparable because it's, you know, kind of male-dominated film, big epic, you know. stuff like that. And again, I think one thing that a lot of the other people, I think, different voting bodies have kind of focused on is, especially at SAG, it was, okay, Irishman, De Niro's getting in for ensemble anyways, and we're giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award, so we can go somebody else like Taron in that category. And then with the Globes, it's like, yeah, he'll get nominated for picture there. I think the same goes with BAFTA. It's like, and The Irishman is not missing for Best Picture, so he'll get a nomination there for sure. And then Jonathan Pryce, again, I could be dead wrong about this, but it almost feels like a with one comes the other type performances there. Obviously, I said that big time for Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant for the Florence Foster Jenkins movie, and that only got Meryl. But again, I'm not feeling the heat behind that one, aside from the screenplay category, even though Jonathan does have the Globe and the BAFTA nominations. And then, Christian Bale, did miss Critics' Choice and BAFTA as of late, but otherwise he got SAG and Golden Globe, which is good, but again, it's like, Ford v. Ferrari is going to do well, but not that well. And then, Eddie Murphy, I feel like, especially after the Globe loss, it's like I just don't have any sense whatsoever now behind that one happening for him. Let's see, but again, just talking about the win here really quick, I still get the sense we're going to feel a ping pong match here between Phoenix and Adam Driver, though. And by the way, it is worth noting, in that category too, it's DiCaprio, Driver, Phoenix have gotten in everywhere. I don't see any of them missing, but it's the other two that I think are vulnerable if they want to go really somewhere else in that category. Okay. For Best Director, I'm not gonna list the 5 right away. Let's talk into my sense here. Okay, so here's the thing. We've got 4 locks in this category. We talked about this last time. We're going to just repeat it for safety's sake here. Bong Joon-ho, Sam Mendes, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. They're locked in. I'm not sensing at all a Ben Affleck, Bradley Cooper level snub here, or even you could argue Catherine Bigelow that year, same as Ben Affleck there. Because, the thing with that one was, Zero Dark 30 started high and then kind of ended up in the middle there by the time Oscar nominations ballots went out because of, some controversies and definitely some, spreading stuff around that year. Whereas 1917, especially now, is really at the highest it's been after the Globe wins. Scorsese is not missing for The Irishman. Bong Joon-ho has gotten in everywhere, including BAFTA. And Tarantino, we talked about this one a little bit too. He was nominated last time for director for Inglourious Bastards. It feels like it's time to nominate him again. He missed for Django Unchained despite a DGA and Globe nomination. It just feels like it's his time for his 3rd director nomination. Ben Affleck, Bradley Cooper, obviously movie stars turned directors, So that's the thing we really focus on here is this branch in particular really gets really snobby with that. So you've got the auteurs, more or less to speak, in Scorsese, Joon-ho, and Tarantino. You could even argue a little bit of that for Sam Mendes as well. But it's like that takes care of that little branch because they love to go auteurist with, like, just look at some of the previous nominees. Like you could say Paul Thomas Anderson being a little auteurist. You can go that with... who was the one I was looking at here earlier? Some of the modern day ones like Alejandro Iñárritu, or obviously Del Toro and Cuarón, who won the category a couple of years in a row there. Then you've got the likes of Wes Anderson, more or less speaking, modern day auteurist. You've got other stuff like that, and then you like the foreign language films in this category, as mentioned several times, like last year with obviously Roma, and also with Paweł Pawlowski for Cold War. You can go back to Michael Haneke getting in for Amour. Let's see here, and then last time probably Julian Schnabel for Diving Bell and the Butterfly, being probably the last example before that. Then you have to go back to Pedro Almodovar for Talk to Her, which we'll talk about Pedro here in a second. So they like that. So it's like some of these surprise nominees in the past few years have been like the foreign language and the auteurist. I especially remember, Paul Thomas Anderson, Paweł Pawlowski in the last 2 years, definitely the big upset nominees in this directing category. So I feel like those two are taken care of with Bong Joon-ho, Sam Mendes, Martin Scorsese, Tarantino. They all have qualities of that, except for obviously foreign language director being Bong Joon-ho and not any of the others. So it's the question of who gets that fifth slot. And I have 5 directors that I've got an eye on here. I think these 5 are probably the ones it comes down to, unless we get a totally out of left field, fucking crazy nominee like somebody who's missed everywhere, like Terrence Malick or James Mangold or Lulu Wang or even the Safdie brothers or Fernando Marielli for the Two Popes. I don't see that happening. I think it does come down to these 5 names, which are, as we mentioned here, I'll try to go alphabetical here. Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story, Greta Gerwig for Little Women. Sorry, I missed Pedro Almodovar. He's alphabetical first for Pain and Glory. Todd Phillips for Joker and Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. Now, except for Pedro, all the other ones have been nominated in some way or another through the year here. Taika missed a lot of spots but got that last-minute DGA nomination, and Jojo has been doing well across the guilds. Noah Baumbach did get the Critics' Choice nomination, but he's missed ever since. Then again, if Marriage Story has the chance to overperform here on Monday, I've got it in for 6 nominees. It could go 8 if it gets Alan Alda and Noah in. So that could be one that sneaks back up on us. Todd Phillips has really been the go-to guy, aside from Scorsese, Ho, Tarantino, and Mendes here. I should say Junho, probably. Todd Phillips has really been the most consistent nominee otherwise. He missed Critics' Choice, but he was in at the Globes and BAFTA. And then you got Greta Gerwig, who got in at Critics' Choice, but again has missed since, and her film arguably really has not been doing well. It, missed a lot of stuff, got totally skunked at SAG, only got a couple of nominations at the Globes, and even at BAFTA you could argue underperformed a little bit. And I if I recall, it also missed out on the Costume Designers Guild, if I remember. It missed out on one of those guilds, either that one or the Production Design one. I'm pretty sure it was the Costume one, but yeah, I can double check that really quick. So it's like, in all respects, these things have, all these directors have something going for them, but also a lot of stuff that's going against them, and that makes it fucking difficult as all hell to get this locked down here for who's in, who's out. Let's see here. Yeah, Little Women missed the period nomination there for Art Directors Guild. Did it miss Costume too? No way. Let me pull that one back up. Costume Designers Guild. It missed that one too. Yeah, so it missed both. I thought it just missed one. Yeah, shit. So yeah, that one again has been struggling as of late. But again, we'll go into these one by one, and I'll kind of reason my way into who I picked. Okay, so first of all, we're going to eliminate the one who I think is the least likely. Of course, now that I say the least likely, this is the one that's going to get in, and that's Pedro Almodovar. He's a past nominee, past winner for the screenplay category for Talk to Her. He's made a film about a film director. It's in a foreign language. Again, they love getting those nominees in for foreign language films. We had 2 of them last year. And Pain and Glory is also one that, is in for other categories too. It's not like this would be the only nomination for it. So, again, just no traction behind him is what's hurting his case the most, is just no nominations anywhere. Not even at BAFTA I had him in, but that didn't happen. Then I go to the most least likely after that being Greta Gerwig. And again, Little Women not doing well across the guilds, her only nomination being a Critics' Choice. However, the film does have a lot of box office behind it. It's been really picking up steam here at the box office, especially the domestic box office. I just saw it today, actually. And, so it's got a little bit of that behind it. Greta is a past nominee as well for directing for Lady Bird. But here's the thing, and I feel like I'm okay to talk about this now, but it's like I would have gotten crucified if I talked about this 2 years ago. And that is, I don't necessarily say I agree with this, but this is an argument that's out there and an argument that I think will maybe be the explanation for why she doesn't get in this time if it happens. And that is that you could argue, again, I don't necessarily believe so, because I did like Greta's direction for Lady Bird enough to nominate her. No, but I got the case of it. But a lot of people, on both sides of the argument of, for who gets nominated and why and stuff, a lot of people believe or point to Greta got nominated a couple years ago just because of the politics of it, just because of the Me Too movement, just because of the Time's Up movement, all those other, kind of social justice kind of things there. And obviously a lot of them were just actual, justice going on. But, so maybe not social justice in that case. Maybe that's a little overreaching. But that's an argument that I think people they're safe to talk about now, but 2 years ago, yeah, if you had said that, yeah, you would have gotten fucking hammered by everybody on, Twitter, YouTube, wherever. So if that is the case, and I'm not saying that is the case last time, I'm not saying that's the case this time, but if that is the reasoning this time, it's the politics of let's get a female director nominated again, is that enough to push this branch over the edge? My answer is probably not, because Greta Gerwig did get a few other nominations last year. She did miss, or last time I should say. She missed at BAFTA, but then she got in at DGA. She got in at, after missing Globes, got in pretty much everywhere else she could, including Critics' Choice. So she had a lot more traction behind her that year. It wasn't just, the branch decided at the last minute that they're going to play okay politics on it and nominate her. That wasn't the case. There was a lot more behind it. Plus, Lady Bird was getting a lot more traction, you could argue, than Little Women is this year. Even though I do think Little Women will have more nominations, actually, than Lady Bird did. That only got 5. I've got Little Women getting 6, or did I say 7? 7, yeah. I've got it getting 7, yeah. So I think and the tech categories definitely are what pushes it over the edge there. Over Lady Bird, which really only had screenplay, supporting actress, director, picture last time. So, So, yeah, so that's, I did see, the Collider guy, whoever it was that put the predictions out, I can't remember who it was. I think Chitwood, he usually is the one behind it. But he put in Greta Gerwig. He said his reasoning was because he thinks the branch is going to get it right. And it's like, I'm sorry, but this branch, I mean, especially for, getting it right, so to speak, as in putting in, a kind of popular director or whatever, that hasn't worked out. Not with Ben Affleck, not with Bradley Cooper. Not with Marielle Heller last year, if you want to put it that way. Again, kind of, optics, speaking of sex, and all that. So, yeah, that's just not enough for me. I think, obviously, again, I think she's got a shot, and after seeing the film, it's not necessarily in the same way that Lady Bird was not a in-your-face director's movie. Little Women is not that, but it's solid, well-put-together film. I personally gave it a 10 out of 10. I really went along for the ride for the movie, and I love the ensemble work and all that stuff too. So I do like the movie a lot. I like it better than Lady Bird, actually. But again, I just don't think so. I just think, even though we've gotten a lot of outspoken critics and stuff, and the whole, after the Golden Globes went no female directors or female writers, actually. I think except for the Parasite co-writer is female, isn't she? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I kind of mentioned that a couple times here. I want to make sure I get that right. Han Jin-woo. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that is, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, the thing is, that year at the Globes, it's like, it wasn't just that. It was like, Greta was clearly in contention for director at that time, and the film did well at Globes, whereas Little Women struggled. And you had Natalie Portman on stage saying, and the 5 male-nominated directors are. And that really, I think, gaslighted that thing into, turning into the full spread. Yeah, now she can't miss kind of thing. It was especially stuff after that. We haven't, there was obviously noise this year for that. After it was only, females, or non-females, I should say. It was only males in the directing category. But it wasn't as loud, it wasn't as sustaining, and clearly Greta didn't pick up with the other categories. So, so I just, looking, again, comparative years, I think Greta's the second least likely to be nominated here. Then I have Noah Baumbach. Again, we've kind of talked about his case a little bit. We could see Marriage Story bounce back big time. We could see... again, Alan Alda getting into, and Marriage Story is on Netflix. I think it's one of the more widely seen films this year. And it's really, aside from SAG, the ensemble missing there, it's gotten in just about everywhere else it could, exception of DGA and stuff. So, again, that could be one, that goes along for the ride. And there's another argument, but I'll get to it as soon as I get my actual pick out. So, yeah, that eliminates those 3. So now we're down to Waititi and Todd Phillips. Let me start with Waititi first here. Now, obviously, the major thing that hurts his case here is he's missed out a lot of places that he should have been in this year. Like missing out not just for the director's category at the Globes, but also the writing category. Oof, not good. And then also Scarlett Johansson missing there. Oof, not good. Not a good sign for JoJo. And also he missed at, I believe he missed at Critics' Choice as well. Yes, he did. He did at Critics' Choice. And then he missed at BAFTA, and he missed at a few other places there. For like Critics' Prize, I thought maybe he had an off chance of winning a couple of them or being runner up, but nothing. But then SAG Ensemble goes for JoJo, and DGA goes for JoJo, and it's like, again, I look at it, it's like, other than a couple places here and there, JoJo has gotten in everywhere. It's in at WGA, it's in at the Directors Guild. Still did pretty good at BAFTA there with a few tech nominations and a few categories we weren't expecting, like film editing, which again boasted my chance to get in there. It was in at PGA, obviously. We weren't really expecting that one to miss. Got in for the Art Directors Guild, which we had an off chance of missing there. Got into the Costume Designers Guild in a tough year. Got in there. In at Ace Eddie, obviously the Cinematographers Guild was also one. Yeah, we knew that one probably wasn't going to happen. But and then you look at it. I thought it wasn't this one. Maybe it was the other one. I believe it was the Sound Editors Guild. They were nominated there as well. So even the Sound Editors Guild got behind this one. Not the sound mixers, but the sound editors. So really, other than cinematography and visual effects, we knew wasn't going to be a major player there. And even then, it's not been talked about much as a cinematography nominee at all this year. But really, where else has it missed other than, some of those other televised awards? It's like the industry seems to be now getting behind JoJo. And here's the other thing, though, a big strike against him. Remember, it also won the TIFF Audience Award. Now, the last two winners have both gotten traction and failed to be nominated for Best Director. You look at Martin McDonagh for 3 Billboards, and last year Peter Farrelly for Green Book. So that's a big strike against Taika. So let's get to Todd Phillips now. And here's the thing. Todd Phillips, obviously Joker, going into the Oscar race for director, we knew was going to be a big underdog because Joaquin Phoenix, initially we all thought was going to be really that and the makeup, and then once we heard the score, we're like, oh yeah, score. It's like those three categories seem to be the constants early out. We knew pretty much those three were not going to miss. Since then, it's gotten into WGA. Obviously, Todd Phillips got into the Globes and at BAFTA there. And it did well at getting in at PGA. Again, most of the guilds that's gotten in for, we can kind of go down those one more time here. A couple nominations at SAG, led nominations at BAFTA, we should say. Let's see, got in for, obviously, PGA, WGA, like we mentioned. Was in for the Art Directors Guild for the period piece there. Again, they had a lot of nominees there, so that probably explains it there. Let's see, it missed the costume one, but again, it's not a strong competitor there. It's in at Ace Eddie, so for the drama category, which again, you could argue is obviously the tougher field there. In at Cinematographers Guild. Didn't get into the Visual Effects Guild, but it got a few nominations across the audio guilds there. Sound mixers. I believe it was 2 nominations at sound editors, if I remember right. It was in for editing dialogue, sound effects, and music. So I got 3 nominations. That's right. 3 nominations there. And Little Women, that was the one place. Sound editing for music was one place Little Women scored there. So yeah, Joker did. That's the primary reason I've got it in for sound editing over sound mixing at the Oscars, just because it did so well at the Guild there. So it really, all the guilds have really been firing off. But then the most crucial one. The one that I thought was in the bag, I thought it was an outside choice, but then the more, we got to it, the more I'm like, nope, it's going to happen. DGA. Nothing. And here's the thing, too. Again, a strike against him is the he's a co-writer on the film, so that category, especially in that one, and you could argue this also for Taika Waititi, also for Greta Gerwig, and really all the 5. They're all 5 writer-directors. They could easily be nominated in their writing category and still be recognized. And especially you go to like Todd Phillips, who I believe is a producer on Joker as well. Let's see, I'm going to look these up really quick to see who all is producers on their films, because that can also affect their decision as well. Taika is a producer on JoJo. Let's see, Joker, I believe Todd Phillips is a producer on that. Yes, he is. He's a producer on that. Let's see, Marriage Story, was it Dave? I thought it was David Heyman only was a producer on that. No, Noah was a co-producer on it. Yeah, so He's a producer there. Little Women, that might be the one actually that doesn't have a producer. Yeah, she didn't. Greta did not produce Little Women. And then Pain and Glory. Yeah, I thought I had everything looked up here, but no dice. Yeah, Almodovar. I believe it's his brother produced that one. Augustine Almodovar. Younger brother. Yeah, he's the younger brother of him. So yeah, you could. Yeah, other than Pedro and Greta, they were all producers on their films. All 5 of them were writers on their films. Some of them the sole writers. So actually, four out of the 5 were sole writers. Yeah. So I mean, obviously that's another thing, but it's like, especially for Joker, it's like if they really want to recognize that, they go in the writing category as well as another spot they could miss. Again, you make the same argument for all 5. So we are really in a tizzy here. Which one do we go with? And I kind of looked back, and I'm like, okay, let's look at some of the surprise nominees in previous years. We've got Lenny Abrahamson is one I always think of with Room. That was one, I've kind of talked about this a little bit if you've been with me some previous years. I always get a little bit of like a sixth sense of who's going to get that nomination. And that year I had it with Lenny Abrahamson. I let it go, and then it happened. Same thing happened the year before with Bennett Miller for Foxcatcher. I had him in all year, didn't happen. I more or less had that feeling with Mel Gibson in 2016. I had him, especially for the Globes, and then after a couple things I pulled him out, and then he ended up getting nominated. I didn't have that feeling at all in 2017. And then last year, not really, no. I mean, obviously, when I saw Black Klansman, I'm like, I would love to see Spike Lee nominated. Obviously, by the time I got around to seeing Roma, I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to get nominated here. So I really haven't had that feeling in the last couple of years here. But, years before, yeah, arguably 3 years in a row there I had it, and I, missed it every time. So let's look at a couple of those. So last year, obviously, Paweł Pawlowski, we talked about a little bit. And then we've got somebody like a Yorgos Lanthimos was also a nominee there. It was more or less expected. He'd gotten in. He'd missed a couple places like Globes and stuff, but then he got in at BAFTA, and yeah, we knew he was going to get in. And you got Paul Thomas Anderson, you've got a couple people like Denis Villeneuve and Kenneth Lonergan, especially is one I'm going to cite here for Manchester by the Sea. Yeah, Lenny Abrahamson for Room. Wes Anderson for the Grand Budapest Hotel, even though that was getting a lot of traction there. Bennett Miller, obviously, for Foxcatcher. And Morton Tilden was a newer nominee there. You can look at... let's see. Steve McQueen was a first-time nominee for Director of the Year of 12 Years a Slave. But Ben Zeitlin being a big example here. You can go into Darren Aronofsky, The Year of Black Swan. That was the first time he was nominated. Even though he'd gotten a lot of credit, obviously, for the Wrestler a couple years before. You can look at Lee Daniels, Jason Reitman, both times he was nominated. What do a lot of these guys have in common? They're guys... all guys, by the way, who have creative voices. A lot of them have creative voices. Now, Lenny Abrahamson, less so, and some of those other ones, like the first-time nominees and stuff. So that kind of dwindled it down to me. I'm like, okay, I'm maybe looking at less of a previous nominee here. I'm looking at more who's going to get in for the first time here. And it's like Scorsese nominated before, Tarantino nominated before, Mendes nominated before. All 3 have won in the past, except for Tarantino for director. Bong Joon-ho is going to be a first-time nominee this time. I think the other one's a first-time nominee, so that dwindled it down to Waititi, Phillips, and Noah Baumbach. And you could argue, all 3 of them are creative voices, and it's like, okay, it's like Noah Baumbach, he's gotten a lot of stuff in the past of, films that have been really highly rated and, stuff. He's only gotten 1 nomination in the past for writing The Squid and the Whale. I believe it's Squid and the Whale. And then... for that's Noah Baumbach. Then Todd Phillips, especially of late, he's been a voice, but it's like the Hangover movies. Again, you make that argument of a couple of years ago with like Adam McKay for The Big Short, and also you could argue last year for Vice. Peter Farrelly for the guy who directed Dumb and Dumber. The guy behind the toilet scene in Dumb and Dumber is going to get an Oscar nomination. No, well, we won't nominate him for director. We'll give him 2 Oscars though, for picture and for writing though. Yeah, sure. So it's like, they like those comedy directors, so watch out for Todd Phillips. And then Taika Waititi also got in that bunch, because he's, a lot of his films have been comedic in the past. I'm like, oh no, Baumbach, a lot of his films are comedic too. So it's like, but again, you look at the kind of change, from more or less comedic to serious director, again, that one favors Todd Phillips. But I kept thinking back to it. I'm like, who is that outspoken voice, the one that the critics are, love to support, and the directing branch of late has liked to nominate? That's Kenneth Lonergan, creative voice, writer, director. Definitely Wes Anderson. You can go back to Ben Zeitlin, Beast of the Southern Wild. I believe he also co-wrote that script. He co-wrote that one. Yeah, so he was nominated for screenplay and director that year. Who did I go with? I also looked at one other thing. I was looking at all this. Again, you can kind of sense, I'm all over the roadmap with this stuff. It's like, okay, this is in favor of this person, but this is not in favor of this. So I'm like, who do I go with? I'm like, I don't know. And then I hear, who does my heart pick? What film have I loved this year that I would love to get nominated? What is the beat? Jojo. Yep, Taika Waititi. That's my fifth. Now, I know, that's the other big thing against Taika, that DGA nominee. Because it's been 10 years since we've seen the 5 at DGA line up with the 5 at Oscars. We've gotten close. The usual rule of thumb, as I've said many times, is 4 out of 5. I always, warn everybody, don't go with DGA because you're guaranteed to miss one. Well, fuck it. I'm going Taika. You know what? I looked at everything. It's like he's a creative voice. His film's been doing well across the guilds as of late, which, even though Joker, obviously, including Makeup Guild, got a few nominations there, and I believe a win. I think they already honored their stuff. Maybe not. Actually, I can also double check on that. Makeup Guild, where's it at? I'm not finding it here. Okay, maybe they did already hand out their stuff. If I did, I missed it. But it's like, I looked at everything, I'm like, I'm like, I have to go with my heart at the end of the day. And JoJo was, that movie had my heart from probably the second minute of film. I just think, again, I just, even though Joker, obviously I get it, 11 BAFTA nominations, that one's been doing really well lately, 2 Golden Globe wins, but that DGA, him not getting in a WGA just shook me. I'm just like, no. I'm like, if he was getting nominated for sure, I think DGA would be one of the first places we would look and say, yeah, that's evidence to back that up. And after he missed there, I'm like, I just didn't know who else to go with. So I'm like, okay, do I go the director's branch being very, very insular and going with a director who's been nominated before and who's got a film about a director with Pedro Almodovar? No. I'm like, he's got no traction. And then I kind of went through the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm going Taika. I'm like, after everything, I just could not think about it anymore. I'm just like, I have to pick one. So I said Taika. And I'm like, yeah. And obviously, yes, this is going to be his first film that gets any Oscar support, really. because Thor Ragnarok didn't get any. Hunt for the Wilderpeople didn't get much at all, through award season or anything. What We Do in the Shadows, obviously, it was first film, didn't do so hot either. So it's like this is really the first time, and it's like, I just feel it's his time. He's going to get some big time respect here come Monday. Of course, like I said, I could be dead wrong. It could be Pedro Almodovar because he was the first one I eliminated, and I'm going to be really pissed off if I do because early on in the season I had him. Yeah, so we'll see. Again, that is a tough category and a tough call there. All right, now we'll go with the 9 films I have down for slotted to be nominated for Best Picture. That's 1917, Ford v. Ferrari, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, and The Irishman. Again, I just, looking at it again, mathematically it's almost impossible to get 10 nominees here with a preferential ballot and everything. Again, you'd have to see really all 9 of these films get 10% or less of the popular vote. It's just, no. That's not going to happen. I can see something like Parasite getting, obviously we don't know the numbers, we never know the numbers, but it's like, I can see something like that getting like 19, 20, 25, up to 25% of the popular vote. Or maybe something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood getting like an 18% of the popular vote. Marriage Story and Irishman both getting 15, stuff like that. And then the rest of them, they kind of go down the list there. So if they do go with 10, though, I did switch that. And I think The Two Popes is actually the one I go with next here, believe it or not. I took out, I think Bombshell, I don't think so. Even though that'll probably have more nominations than any of the other ones that I have here, which are for possible nomination, which is The Farewell, Knives Out, and Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Because Knives Out did get the PGA nomination, but correct me, has there ever been a film in the modern day of Oscars, like as in like 2009 on, where we've seen it only get screenplay and film. It's like, no, that hasn't happened, not to my memory. And that you can make that argument for me with what I have lined up with both The Farewell and Knives Out, which is, even though they were both very well critically received, both made money at the box office for their respective, audiences and stuff. Screenplay only behind them otherwise, yeah, I just don't think that's enough. Then Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, again, any other year would be a shoo-in to be a nominee, but it's just, again, really struggled in that picture category amongst other categories like director and arguably screenplay. So I think Tom Hanks is really the sole nominee there. And then Bombshell, I dwindled it down to 3. Without screenplay, yeah, I don't think that gets a slot here. But The Two Popes, on the other hand, I have in there just in case, because I think, if anything else, that one could rebound big time. We see it in for, again, maybe a wild slot for Best Director, but I don't think so. But otherwise, Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce both. If they both get in, and the screenplay, then I can see that maybe getting in over a couple of films to get that Best Picture slot. But that's the argument. Which two, then, do you go with, which are, the least likely? And I think the answer is 1917, Jojo Rabbit, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, The Irishman. Those are a solid 6. I don't see any of those 6 missing. If they do, that's a huge upset there. So that looks... so Joker, Little Women, and Ford v. Ferrari are kind of the 3 bottom, on the bottom of the poll there, for, the ones that they're in. I think, they all 3 got in a PGA Producers Guild. They've all gotten a lot of representation through the season. Definitely Joker has. But Joker, on the other hand, I think there's an argument to be had. Some people are going to find it a little more divisive in the general Academy. I think there's definitely enough support behind it to get a nomination. But there's a chance that one falls short, and it's 8 nominees and the rest of them are in. Ford v. Ferrari, same thing. It's like, it's not across the board going to be like a 9-10 nominee film. In other years, possibly it could have been. But I think even with 4 nominations, I think it's okay. We've seen films like Brooklyn get 3 nominees and still land picture being one of them. The other ones for that one was actress and screenplay. Obviously, The Post got actress only other than picture. Blindside got actress and picture only, but that was when it was a solid 10, sure. But, we see stuff like that happen sometimes. And then Little Women, I think, I just put that really just like the most, if this makes sense, it's like, Ford v. Ferrari, I think, is the first one to drop off the list if it doesn't reach enough of a popular vote. Joker is next, and then Little Women, if that makes sense. If I kind of put it back into ascending order of least likely to be nominated if it isn't a 9 nominee field, but I think it will be. And that is that, again, I'm a little worried about Little Women getting enough of the popular vote, but I think it will. I mean, again, after seeing it today, I'm like, it's just a nice, heartwarming movie. And stuff like that. So it's like, I think that still gets in for that up to 9 there. Otherwise, I feel like that's kind of it after that. I mean, at this point, we're not to the all bets off yet on that director category for that 5th slot, but it feels close. It just feels like there's so many possibilities there. And by the way, one more to maybe add for picture as a maybe is just because Rocketman, I put that one in for so many nominations as of late. That one maybe surprisingly could get, a 6th nomination for picture, but again, I don't think that's likely. I think, actor, what else I have in? Makeup, costume, song, and sound mixing. I think, that's still a really good show for them for a May release and stuff, so... Yeah, so really quick, let me, one more time I'll kind of go down to the films with multiple nominations and who has the most and stuff. So I kind of mentioned it early on. The Irishman I have down for 10 nominations. Again, those are going to be for visual effects, production design, costume design, film editing, cinematography, adapted screenplay, 2 supporting actors, director, picture. Let's see, in second place I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood getting 9 on Monday, production design, costume design, film editing, cinematography, original screenplay, supporting actor, director, picture. Let's see, then I don't have any ones getting 8 nominations, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 films getting 7 nominations, which is quite a bit. And again, shows how diverse a year this is. 1917 I have getting sound editing, sound mixing, production design, original score, cinematography, director, picture. Joker I have getting 7 now with sound editing, makeup and hair, original score, cinematography, adapted screenplay, actor, picture. And then Jojo Rabbit I have getting production design, costume design, film editing, adapted screenplay, supporting actress, director picture, and Little Women getting 7 with production design, costume design, score, adapted screenplay, supporting actress, actress picture. Let's see, then I've got a couple films with 6 nominees. That's Marriage Story and Parasite. Marriage Story getting score, original screenplay, supporting actress, actress, actor picture. Parasite getting editing, international film, original screenplay, supporting actor, director picture. So, those were a couple, again, early on we thought were, it's going to be funny. Yeah, it's like some of these films like Joker, Little Women, Jojo, if my numbers are right, I mean, it's going to be like, whoa, they overperformed. It's something like Marriage Story and Parasite, which feel like higher quality, higher up on the list films for Best Picture, though. They only got 6. It's like, well, that sometimes it works out that way. And especially with Marriage Story, it's not going to be a tech-heavy film in those categories. And Parasite, aside from editing and maybe cinematography, again, you make the same argument there. Let's see. Then I've got, Rocket Man we mentioned. I've got 5 for that one with sound mixing, makeup and hair, costume design, original score, actor. Ford v Ferrari we mentioned has 4 with sound editing, sound mixing, film editing, and picture. Rise of Skywalker also got 4 for that one with visual effects, sound editing, sound mixing, and score. Then we have to go down to 3. We've got films with 3 nominations are Bombshell, which has makeup and hair, supporting actress, and I think just Avengers Endgame otherwise. Yeah, that is visual effects, sound editing, sound mixing. So the films with 2 nominees, that's quite a few, are Lion King with visual effects and song, Judy with makeup and hairstyling and actress, Frozen 2 with song and animated feature, Harriet with song and actress, Pain and Glory with international film and actor, and Honeyland with international film and doc feature. So I think that's everything with multiple nominees from what I've got. By the way, on Oscar morning, I will print out these projected nominees with a couple, slots for who else could get in. That's quite a bit to talk about there. So it won't be as much tick, 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 all that stuff. It'll be more like this stuff. So it shouldn't be less distracting, hopefully, for you guys. All right. Well, that's going to be it. That's final word. That's who's getting in on Monday. Right or wrong, that's what I'm going with. It's a fun year. A lot of surprises could be in store. I'm sure everything I've got down is not going to happen. I'm sure there's going to be a couple upsets. There's going to be some surprises. There's going to be some shocks. There's going to be some moments. There's going to be everything on Monday morning, and I'm dying to see it happen. Waiting for it to happen. And I'm hoping you guys are the same there. Hopefully you guys have had a fun year too. It hasn't been too up and down, and some politics is fun, like with the female directors and stuff. That's always fun, and not fun like, that stuff. And one thing I should say too, not to get on a political soapbox or anything, but if that does go down on Monday, where once again we don't see too much support from females in the writing categories, directing categories, even the producing categories, which there's some female producers this year, so don't worry, they will be nominated. But especially the directing category, remember, if your big argument for why they should be nominated, other than, just to see women nominated, if another argument you have, this is one I've heard a lot, and I wanted to speak about it really quick just because it pisses me off, and that is that it discourages women from picking up the camera and stuff. Here's the thing, remember, this is the Academy Awards. This is an award show. If your only focus on picking up a camera and telling stories is so you can get nominated or potentially win awards, you shouldn't be in this business. And I have to say, for myself personally, I kind of had that inkling when I was a young kid. I'm like, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to make movies that win Oscars and stuff. And it's like, once I kind of figured out how it worked, it's like, oh no, I don't want to do this. It's like, I want to tell stories. And that's why I'm more focused now on like writing and stuff. It's like, if that, really, in all honesty, would I love to win an Academy Award for writing or maybe even directing one day? Sure, of course I would. Anybody would. Name 9 people on the street. How many of them you say you want to win an Oscar? It's like 9 out of 10 of them will say, oh, yeah, that'd be fun. It's like, if you can. But I'm more focused on telling stories. And I think that's something very positive that I think is still being spread around, but I think some people miss that point. That is, the Oscars are not about honoring the best because the best is our word and everything that we say trickles down to the studios. No, doesn't happen. If that was truly the case and the Oscar So White thing was right on the money with that, we wouldn't have seen Moonlight win. We wouldn't have even seen people of color nominated since. Obviously, that has not happened. So just keep that in mind. Remember, this is an award show. It's top the thing. It's the most attention we focus on film, sure. But if you're discouraged because you don't see a woman nominated for director, you're in this business for the wrong reason. If you're in this business for directing or really any craft of storytelling, whether that's acting, visual effects, costumes, you're here to tell a story. That's my personal feeling. But that above all else, if you're in this for the money, if you're in this for the, the glory of it, you're in this for the wrong reasons, and I think karma will bite you in the ass. So that's just my feeling on it. That's something I wanted to say. So that has been an argument that's spread around, and it's like, I get where you're coming from there, and I get a lot of people are very passionate about getting females nominated. And for me, especially when they're worthy of it, when everyone is worthy of it, yeah, I will support the people I want to support. But just because of your chromosomes or just because of this and that for me is never argument enough for why you should be nominated over, name the people that are actually nominated. That's been my stance from the beginning. That's going to continue to be my stance. I don't see anything changing my stance on that at all. And especially the argument of, it just discourages women. It's like, no, it discourages the women who maybe were in it for the business, maybe in it for the money, maybe in it for not telling stories, maybe the ones that, are in it for the wrong reasons. Maybe it discourages them, which if that's the case, then okay, we've got a lot of storytellers out in Hollywood that are working their, every day busting their ass. And a lot of them, probably 90% of them are not going to get nominated for Oscars through their career or really any nominations across the board. You know why? Because they're here for the storytelling. And that stuff, the glory of it, that comes later, I feel. It's like you need to, if you're really in this thing, if you're serious about this, you got to be in it for the right reasons. And for me, just my personal belief, you can have your own, but, to each their own, but storytelling is top for me. And that's probably going to be my last word on that. Okay. So once again, we'll be back here Monday, and it's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a surprising day. Hopefully we get some stuff right. I know I'll get some stuff wrong, but I'll try not to blow up too much of that stuff. All right. So signing off until Monday. Have fun. And by the way, everybody else out there predicting, fingers crossed for the guys and gals out there who are predicting. It's a tough game, and I'm rooting for everybody else out there too.